Hello all, how are we doing on this wonderful day? Hope you all rocked your quiz. Now today we're going to talk about coterminal angles, and today we're going to start with the angles, tomorrow we're going to start with radians. And we're going to do a lot with graphing from here on out. So think about your xy axis, but instead of thinking about it just x, y's and numbers and integers, we're going to talk about degrees. So this would be 0 degrees if I would go this way. Okay, this is our positive direction, is up. This would be 90 degrees if we hit the y-axis, 180 degrees if we got back to the x-axis, 270 degrees if we went all the way down here, and then if we got back to 0, that would be a full rotation, 360 degrees. Alright, so we all know a full circle is 360 degrees. Alright, now, a coterminal angle, well, let's just say if we're not going positive, we're going negative. Now, a coterminal angle is kind of what we do is, let's say we wanted to move, but we wanted to end up in the exact same place. So if I was standing in place and I did a full turn, I moved 360 degrees. I physically moved, however, I ended up in the exact same spot. And that's kind of the purpose of coterminal angles. Okay, it says you could add or subtract 360 and you're going to end up in the same spot, depending on which way you turn. Alright, and not only 360, but we can go everywhere in between. So let's look at a few examples here. I'm going to draw, let's do 4 of them. So let's draw 4 of these. XY axis. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now let's say I wanted to move 300 degrees starting from 0. Alright, well I start at 0. I know this is 180. To here is 270. And then I have to move 30 more. Now in terms of this whole thing being 90, 45 would be about halfway. So I'm not quite there. Alright, so that would be my 300 degree angle. All the way around, I said that's about 300. Right now we're just estimating. Okay. What if I wanted to move negative 200 degrees? Alright, we started 0. Now we're going the opposite direction. So from here to here is 180. And then again, 20 more. Right? So we'd probably go a little more this way and draw my angle. So from there to there is negative 200 degrees. Now what if we went 580 degrees? Alright, so we start here. That's 360. 360 and 180 more gives me 540. And then I still need 40 more to get to 580, so I would go almost halfway. Alright, now, this has a special name. It's called a terminal ray. Alright, and this is just kind of the basics right now. In a minute here, we'll really explain what the purpose of all this is. Alright, now, let's also keep in mind that 90 degrees, let's say we'd start here and go here. Alright, 90 degrees is the exact same thing as negative 270. Because think about it, we would start here, right, and go all the way back, and we would end up in the same spot. So we'd start somewhere and go here. So that's your ray right there. Alright, so 90 and 270 would be the same thing. So one of the exercises we're going to do is we're going to look at, alright, so look at one positive and one negative coterminal angle. So I'm going to give you a number, a degree, an angle measure, and you need to give me the coterminal positive and coterminal negative. So let's say your number is 400 degrees. Now, back at the beginning I said plus or minus 360, and that's what you need to do. Alright, so we're going to plus or minus 360 till we get a positive and a negative. So let's say I add 360 to 400, I get 760. All right, so that's our positive one. Now I need to get a negative one. So if I subtract 360 from 400, I'm only at positive 40. All right, so I still don't have a negative one. So I got to spin one more time. I got to do one more full term. So 360 degrees back from 40 is negative 320. All right, so really an appropriate answer would be one positive and one negative for this. Now, you could put 760 or 40. Both of those would be correct. So, for instance, let's say we had negative 780 degrees. All right, well, a simple one would be add 360, right? And that gives me negative 420. Now I need to get a positive one. Well, to get a positive one, I got to keep moving in the same direction. So 360 more gives me negative 60. And then 360 more finally gives me positive 300. So negative 420 and 300 would be appropriate answers. All right, so just given an angle, keep going. In this sense, we had to move 360 3 full times in the opposite direction. All right, now, what's the purpose of this? Okay. The purpose of this is all for reference angles. Reference angles. Now, reference angles are always in relationship to the x-axis. In relationship to x-axis. And I'm going to highlight that. Make sure you remember it. Now, pretty much ask yourself this question. How far am I from the x-axis? All right, let's write that. How far am I from the x-axis? And that's how I like to think about it. And one very, very, very important thing to keep in mind is in this case, we are always positive. Okay, we are dealing with positive angles. We're not dealing with negative coterminals here. It may start that way, but when we draw our graphs, okay, it never does. So pretty much our answers are always going to be, and let's use theta for the angle, are always going to be between 0 and 90. It's impossible not to be, and I'll show you why in a second. So your answer should always be between 0 and 90. So let's draw 3xy axis this time. 1, 2, 3. Take a second. Draw them so that we can follow along. All right. First thing we're going to do is 200 degrees. So we're going to move just like we always did. 180, and we move 20 more. All right, I'm going to draw my terminal ray. Okay, now, that is our reference angle, 20. All right, because that's how far we are from the x-axis. Now, you want to take the shortest distance. It's either 20 or 160. All right, and remember, what did my quote say? How far am I from the x-axis? All right, you want to be closest to the x-axis. In this case, 20 would be my reference angle. And just a little look into the future, all right, I could draw a perpendicular line here to create a triangle. That's where trig comes in. Okay, negative 90 degrees. Right there. Well, what's my closest reference angle to the x-axis? That would be 90 degrees. So 90 degrees would be your reference angle. All right, and over here, let's go negative 280 degrees. So we start here. We got 180, right? We got 90, so that's 270, and then 10 more. So how far are we from the x-axis here? Well, we're 80 degrees because we went 10 here and 90 here. So my closest distance to the x-axis would be 80 degrees. All right, so here my reference angle is 80 degrees. All right, so that's how we use our information to get a reference angle. Now, one last skill and then we're done. So converting radians to degrees, or let's say and degrees because we're going to go both ways. Now, radians is a new term we're going to talk about. We use it to measure angles. All right, so let's say we're going degrees to radians. Right? You take whatever number's given, you're given an angle, so degrees, and you multiply it by pi over 180. Now, the way I like to remember this is I'm trying to cancel my degrees. Alright, so degrees are here, degrees are here. So that's just how I remember it, kind of like a conversion type thing. Alright, because that's what you're doing is converting. And I remember that degrees are always on bottom when I'm going degrees to radians because I'm trying to get rid of the degrees. There was air quotes there. Get rid of the degrees. Now going radians to degrees, you take your radian measure and you multiply by the reciprocal, 180 over pi. Alright, so let's kind of practice how to use this. So let's say I had 90 degrees and I want to convert that to radians. Alright, well you take your number, your degrees, 90 degrees, and we're going to multiply it. Maybe we'll do the little star so that doesn't look like a degree symbol. We're going to multiply it by pi over 180. So we multiply fractions, we go straight across, 90 pi over 180, and then you're going to reduce. Well, 90 over 80 is just 1/2, right? So you got 1 pi over 2 as your final conversion. Alright, let's try one more. Negative 270 degrees. So we got negative 270 times pi over 180. Degrees and degrees are going to cancel. So I got negative 270 pi over 180. When you reduce 270 over 180, you get negative 3/2 pi. Alright? So that's how that works there. Now, I'm going to leave you with one problem. Alright, make sure you have this done for tomorrow. I'm going to give you negative 570 degrees. And I want you to graph it. Okay, I want you to find a positive and negative coterminal angle. Coterminal angle. I want you to give me the reference angle. Remember, always positive between 0 and 90. And convert it to radian measure. So when I check tomorrow's notes, I should have 4 things. You should have 4 answers for this one number. Alright? Enjoy. See you tomorrow.